Welcome. Thank you very much for joining us to this Careers East Sussex Careers in Construction Roundtable. So much to talk about. We've got a great panel for you, and a bit of background on this event. So, the Careers East Sussex, in collaboration with Always Possible, Culture Shift and Sussex STEM, we're hosting an innovative online event. Careers event this spring with 8 events to inspire and mobilise a future workforce. So a little bit of background, the world of work is changing and there are opportunities everywhere. It doesn't always feel like it though, with the constantly reporting economic challenges such as Brexit and COVID-19. But in East Sussex, sometimes hidden away, there are thousands of businesses, charities, self-employed and public service organisations doing brilliant things and looking to hire brilliant people just like you. Whether your starting point is an apprenticeship or a degree or a traineeship or creating your own business, there is support to find the right work which can turn into the dream career. So we've got a great panel to talk about their experiences and backgrounds in this sector. We have Claire East, we have Lindsay Plumridge, Dick Joan, Mark Austin, Callum Conran and Hannah Goddard, and you're going to be hearing from all of them shortly. But first of all, we just want to watch a little bit of a video to position the construction industry in our region. First of all, I'd like to introduce Mark Austin. Mark, thank you for joining us. Tell us a bit about your background.
Yeah, thanks very much for the opportunity. So I'm a co-founder of a company called Automatatio, which is a software company helping construction businesses look at change on projects. But the next slide shows really how I got to this point. So this year it's 30 years in construction. I live in Helsham.
Congratulations.
I've lived in East Sussex all my life. So I started straight out of school, went to Bircham Newton CITB Centre, worked my way through being an engineer for about 6-10 years, and then I became a project manager and went back to Sovereign Harbour, which is where I first started my career. Then I moved into different roles in head office. I ended up doing business development roles, looking at a whole sector in the UK. I was 5 years, I was operations director for one of the largest UK civil engineering contractors. So I looked after everything from Crossrail to nuclear power stations, Shoreham Power Station, water treatment works, that sort of stuff. And for 2 years before I left the main contractor, I was innovation director for Group. So I've done a very diverse career, and then decided to do a slight change. And now I'm a business owner. So I have a couple of businesses. One is software. The middle one, Austin Wright, is all about helping people. And the last one is I'm an artist as well. So it's taken me on a very big journey. But really, the next slide is just a quick, what does that actually mean? And why is, there are many different routes. So I left school with a handful of GCSEs, eventually got what would be a level 3 now, an ONC, and then did a HNC, left academia for a bit, and then through my work managed to become chartered, which is the MCIOB. And then I did a mini MBA. Which got me sort of into the directorships. So, but what you'll really see is the lines every time you get a qualification, it moves you on in your career. And as I say, at the end, I've taken the change in direction, and it is time over salary. So it just shows you how it can make a difference. So that's a quick whistle stop about me and some of the opportunities I've been given.
So what inspired you right at the beginning to start out in the construction industry?
I wanted an outdoor job. I was going to do farming, but my grandfather gave me some advice that was probably time to change, and I've done a bit of volunteer work at the Bluebell Railway in my formative years, and I found a job which was earn as you learn, and also part-time on site out on, but also education as well. So it really fitted my learning style.
Lots of factors, you take it from there. Thank you very much, Mark. Can I next introduce Claire from East Sussex Highway. Claire, thank you for joining us today.
Morning. Hi, yeah, I'm Claire Eastes. I'm Head of Customer Service at East Sussex Highways. I have been with East Sussex Highways for just over a year now, so not long, but my career history is within an engineering firm. I spent 17 years with an engineering firm before now. Started off as a customer service advisor and worked my way around and up the business, pretty much doing every job in the business, from warehousing and repair centre work and that kind of thing, until I finally ended up as operations manager there, and was sadly made redundant, but then found this great opportunity within East Sussex Highways, and my goodness, it's very eye-opening. I had absolutely no idea about this I guess this part of the industry, and the opportunities that are also here, and there are hundreds of different career opportunities within East Sussex Highways, something for everyone, I would say. So yeah.
What I really like about what you've both said is you've both tried lots of things and you've evolved and learned and gone through. And I think that's a really key theme, is there's a real, early on in your career, you think one day a golden envelope will come through your door, don't you, with this is what you'll do for the rest of your life. And the world doesn't work like that. So it's quite empowering to hear that trying things, keep being curious, keep learning, and letting your career just evolve is absolutely fine. It's not black and white as sometimes you might think it would be, especially at the beginning, because that's how it's been educationally, is you can just keep going and keep trying. So thank you, Claire. And can we now come to your colleague, Lindsay? Good morning, Lindsay.
Hello, good morning. Yes, my name's Lindsay. I am the Communications and Stakeholder Manager for East Sussex Highways. I have been working there now for almost 10 years. I started out as the Communications Coordinator and worked my way up to where I am now. I'm actually in the process of doing an apprenticeship myself at the minute, so I'm doing a level 5 in management and leadership. So having thought I'd finished learning, I'm now learning again. I started by doing a degree in journalism. I soon realised that really wasn't for me, and had a few jobs in local government, and then found this job at East Sussex Highways. As Claire said, it's really varied. There's lots going on. There's lots to do. And although I'm not in an engineering role myself, I kind of feel like I probably know more than I should, because there's streetlights to fix, there's potholes to fix, and you just pick up so much information. I think you become a bit of a sponge just learning everything that's going on around you.
I think it's essential to remain curious, isn't it? You know, this learning is a key theme, and you've got to keep evolving and challenging yourself. But you're right, when you work in the industry, you suddenly start seeing the world very differently, don't you?
Yes.
By osmosis, you're probably becoming more technical than you think.
Yeah, I think I know more than maybe I'd like to know.
Thank you very much. And on to Dick. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Hi, my name's Dick Shaw. I did a fine art degree in Bristol a very long time ago and started life as a sculptor. Didn't make a living at it, so I got into printing. I started working doing open edition fine art prints and selling them to retailers, and that led to picture framing. I started a factory manufacturing picture frames for John Lewis and Debenhams and Marks and Spencers and IKEA and Next and everybody like that. Picture frame factory capable of 1,000 frames a day. We did direct delivery. After 25 years doing that, I read an article about people wanting to downsize into caravans, and I looked at the caravan market, didn't like the look of the caravans, obviously interested in mid-century design. I left the business I was in, which I mean, it was about time I did, so I did, and started a caravan company. Modernist designs, lots of glass and steel. People liked the caravans and called me and said they'd like me to build a house for them. So about 8 years ago, the company I'd started began building houses. We started out building one-off houses in factories, indoors for people, and delivering them to the north of Scotland and the south of France and all over the place. And more houses were built. We built about 70 houses in the first 3 or 4 years. Slowly at the same time, the construction industry was evolving, and off-site construction, what we call off-site, so building houses in the factory, started to become more accepted by central government and also local government. And we pushed for Boutique Modern, my company, to build social housing for our local authority and for housing associations. So now we build blocks of flats, and we build bungalows for retirees. We build maisonettes. We're building houses in Peacehaven at the moment, 40 houses for a housing association. The company has grown enormously, obviously, particularly in the last 4 or 5 years. We now have 45 people working in the factory building houses on a production line, and we do everything from steel construction, carpentry, window fitting, first fix, second fix, electrics and plumbing. The factory is full of people who are doing everything that you would expect to happen outside on a building site. So they're working inside, they're learning on the job. We work in small teams, so a skilled person will train a junior. I take a lot of people from job centres and from college. We're hiring a lot at the moment. We've hired 5 people, I think, in the last 3 or 4 months. All through the pandemic, we had the opportunity to grow. The main thing I wanted to say was I think the construction industry is in a very exciting place at the moment. With the zero carbon targets that we're all working towards now, there's an awful lot of research and development and areas of construction that are opening up in decarbonising existing housing stock, which is a really exciting opportunity and massive career potentials there. But also building in a factory or building on site. Housing is needed now as much as ever. I think it's a very exciting time to join the construction industry.
Well, as you say, it's very innovative, and as somebody also says in the chat, it's very creative. There's lots of room for opportunity here at the moment. Now, what would you have said to your 20-year-old self if you went back and said, in the future you're going to be running this massive business? What would he have thought?
I don't know. I think I made the right decisions at that time. I tried a lot of different things. I kind of looked to enjoy myself at work, but I realised at the same time I tried to start a business myself right when I left college, and I realised that the insecurity of being self-employed wasn't going to work with the way I wanted to develop my lifestyle. So I took a job with somebody, and I think all the way through working in the different areas I work for, I looked at being self-employed on a number of occasions. It's only really in the last 12 years that I have become self-employed. So I tried lots of different things. I think innovation and creativity is probably the sort of driver, and the way the construction industry is moving at the moment, I think it's full of creative opportunities for people.
And you did it when you had the personal toolkit to allow you to, and also the industry has evolved. It kind of came together at the right time for you, but you had that entrepreneurial spirit by the sound of it. You were always going to do something a bit different.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. It was. We were very, very lucky starting the business when we did. It took a long time for the institution. It felt like a long time. It took about the first 7 years for the institutions to accept building a house in a factory just outside Brighton and delivering it to Lancashire. That took a while for people to accept. But now it seems to be more acceptable. They're mortgageable and we get warranties and everything the way a traditional house would. I'm not solely saying, though, that modular house construction is the way to go. I think construction generally has got so many challenges right across the board. Highways as well. I mean, all construction is looking at new ways to reduce carbon, reduce waste, just be greener and more sensible. And I think the opportunities are massive.
Really exciting times. Thank you very much. Good morning, Callum. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning. How are we all? My name is Callum. I'm from Wilmot Dixon. I'm a management trainee. Joined the company about 3.5 years ago. Originally, I left school with my A-levels, not really knowing what I wanted to do. So I did a few jobs, tried a few different things, worked in IT up in London for a while and changed careers into construction, and I've loved it ever since. Like I say, joined Wilmots as a management trainee, and they pay for me to go to uni 1 day a week, so I get a degree with them, which is good, so I don't come out with the debt, which is fantastic. I work in the pre-construction side of the business. So before we go to site, I hand over to the operations team. We sort of win the work from the customer, build the design through to stage 4, stage 5, and work on the planning program, costs, and all things pre-con. Yeah.
So what inspired you to move from finance to construction?
IT, but
Yeah, sorry.
I think I was in a company where they were happy to sort of leave you where you were. There wasn't much career progression. I'd always been interested in construction, and I think I saw the opportunity come up and took the jump, really, and that's something I knew I'd love to do, and I've never looked back. It
inspired you at the time. That's great. And last but not least, Hannah, thank you very much for joining us today.
Hiya, so I work with Wilmot Dixon as well. I left school with not very good GCSEs. I then joined college. I didn't know what I wanted to do, so I thought I'd do a business. Still didn't really know what I wanted to do. Then found a job for a construction planner. I liked organising things, so I joined. And I was going to go into pre-con like Callum, but I found the site side of side. So I'm now a trainee build manager, and I've been working with Wilmot Dixon for about 5 years. I did a 2-year apprenticeship. And again, I go to college, I do a HNC, which is a different route to a degree. So I do more coursework and MVQ based experience. And yeah, I've never looked back.
Now, what's a build manager? What does that involve? You say you're on site, is it?
I am on site. I manage the process of certain works. I make sure all the site team and the site workers are up to health and safety standards, their quality is correct. Any problems, we have to work together and solve it as soon as possible, and just really get around the day-to-day problems of building.
Cool, sounds really good. And I think a comment from me is the most interesting people never kind of work out what they want to do. And I think we have got a theme across the group here of just being curious, but not being disheartened if you don't like that. Both you and Callum have tried something, gone, okay, that wasn't quite for me. Let's go and do something else. Don't feel it's a failure. Just see it as an evolution. So we have quite a big first question for the panel, and I'll go around you all individually. So what are your 3 top tips for success in the sector? Mark, I'm going to pick on you as number 1. I'm going to throw you in at the deep end. Then, what do you think are your 3 top tips for success?
My first one is all about people, and that is the primary thing. And having people skills and being able to communicate and listen is just huge. That's my first one. My second one is just be curious, as you mentioned, because it is evolving. Dick's absolutely right. The pace that change is happening at the moment across the industry is abrasive. And it's needed. So I think that's really my second one. And my third one is just enjoy it. And you don't have to do things today. Sometimes they take a bit longer, but eventually you'll get to where you need to get to in the path you're supposed to be on.
It's all going to be quite philosophical today, isn't it? Because you're right, those are absolutely all spot on. Claire, what are your thoughts?
I would say don't be afraid to put yourself out of your comfort zone. For me, this particular job and environment for me was really putting myself out of my comfort zone. I came into highways. It was a really strange time. I started at the beginning of the first lockdown, so I was isolated at home, not really having a clue about what was going on in East Sussex highways, and it was strange, but I was determined that I wasn't going to give up. So I would say don't be afraid of the unknown, because there's a lot of unknown in construction. I would say persevere. I would say as in any industry, it's very competitive, and it may take some time to find the right opportunity for you, but don't give up. If you get knocked back, if your path that you think that you want to take falls over, just get up and find another path, because there will be one, and it's very easy at that young age to get disheartened quickly, because you haven't got the years behind you of knowing that it'll all work out in the end. And I can remember my very first job that I really wanted. I'd applied for lots of jobs, and there was one that I'd gone for and I really, really wanted it, and I didn't get it, and I was so upset, and it really took a lot for me to have the courage to go and reapply for something else. But I wished I'd have picked myself back up a little bit quicker and got on with it, because we've only got one one life and one opportunity. So perseverance, definitely. Third one, goodness me, it's just, I would say communication is absolutely key. I think you don't have to be the cleverest person, you don't have to be the best, but if you're able to articulate yourself well and know when to say what to and reach out for help, then it will take you a long way.
I think that also, Claire, that makes me think of resilience, as you say, bouncing back, which is really hard at the beginning because you don't have much context. You haven't been knocked back, but you learn from each one, and it's having that confidence to go and ask the question of, well, why wasn't I successful? What can I do better next time? Because you're still learning. You don't know what you don't know early in your career. So as you say, asking for feedback, asking for support, asking for guidance, and just being open to that feedback, which sometimes you may not like to hear, because that's how you grow, isn't it? But it's tough at the beginning. Lindsay, what are your thoughts on your top tips? And then we're going to come to some questions, actually, because we've got some great questions in the chat. But Lindsay, let's do your thoughts first.
Mine aren't too dissimilar to Mark's and Claire's. I would definitely say communication. I think for us, things go wrong because we've not communicated properly. I think, secondly, you need to own your mistakes. You know, mistakes are going to happen. They happen to all of us. It's about learning from those mistakes and moving on from them, which I think comes hand in hand with being a bit thick-skinned as well. Like I said, mistakes are going to happen. It's how you react to those mistakes. And lastly, I think you're not going to know everything. I think you have to accept you're not going to know everything. I've been there for 10 years now, and there's still things that I'm learning. It's about asking questions and not being scared to ask what you might think are stupid questions, because no question is stupid. Yeah, they're my top three. Making
an assumption is potentially a lot more dangerous, isn't it? If you just, it's good to just ask the question, and also people really respect that. I think that's, you think people might think, oh, I'm being stupid. Actually, if you ask a good question, they really respect you took the time to just get that clarity, so you don't go running off in the wrong direction. And Dick, I'm going to put the question that's in the chat to you about, do you think an apprenticeship or going to university is better for getting on in your sector? Because you mentioned you have a development within your team there of nurturing new talent.
I don't know. I think it depends on your personality and your character. I think, I mean, we have a lot of people who are sort of, you know, by their nature are probably better at learning on the job. I went to university and it was probably I mean, I didn't learn anything. I just spent 3 years drunk and really enjoyed myself, but and developed my personality, I'm sure. I was going to say, I think you choose whichever you think is better. I think if you want to get into a professional university, is really good, but I think you can also get that way through, you know, get there through work. I was going to say, my advice is to look after yourself and take work very seriously, but take yourself very seriously as well, and try not to let one mess up the other. We really focus here on trying to get people to you know, enjoy their work as much as they enjoy their time at home and their time off, and trying to maximize both. And I think that's a really important thing to sort of get a good idea of right at the beginning. Work is really important. It's very, very important for, I believe, you know, for your personality to take work very seriously. And I think you can get some great time off by working hard. You know what I mean? And yeah, that's, I think, you know, with university or an apprenticeship or on the job work, training, whichever.
And I agree with you. You should immerse yourself in your work. And I think that comes back to the curious has been the theme of everything. If it's not inspiring, it's not motivating you and challenging you, what's the next step?
Yeah. I agree. I mean, keep looking, always keep looking. And there's, you know, there's opportunities to learn in loads of different ways. You can just learn how to get on with people while you're learning to be a plumber, and then move on to do something else. You know, I think it's just a good idea to work.
Absolutely. Callum, I was actually sort of related to this point. Is you're doing a degree apprenticeship. How intense is that? Because obviously you're working and you're studying. How do you manage your time, juggling all those pieces?
It's definitely difficult, especially towards the end of sort of term and stuff. You've got loads of assignments coming up. It can be a lot of late nights, so it is difficult. But when you've got the goal in mind of where you want to be in the industry and the degree you need to complete, you sort of find the time. I think just work-life balance is huge. Just knowing when to sort of differentiate between the two and set time aside to do the assignments and the work that needs to be done is massive.
And Hannah, because obviously you're doing the same thing, you're juggling work and life, and how are you finding that? And also, how surprised are your peers that you're loving the construction industry?
I really love telling my friends that I work in the construction industry and that I wear hard hat and boots and wear a high vis. So I'm really proud to say that I work in the construction industry. Again, you know, there's late nights with the job, you know, especially coming towards handover, you try and get the bits finished and it all pretty and handed over. But again, it is about time management, and that's something that you will start to learn as you go through the industry. And it's also understanding how you like to work and how you work with your degree and your assignments. You know, if you're better off going into class, well, then you can go into class, or if you're better off working from home, you can work from home. Like, there is a bit of flexibility with how you want to work depending on which company you go for. But yes, you'll learn time management as you go through the stages.
But that's also really interesting, that you have to learn yourself, as you're saying, about how you learn best and what environments. That's something that's quite difficult to judge, I would imagine, to begin with.
Yes, I mean, all the way through school, you've got your teachers there that help and support you. And then you kind of go to college and, you know, you're a bit more independent, but you still go in, you know, maybe 4 days a week. And then you come to this apprenticeship where you go 4 days a week to work and then a day at college. And it's just like, whoa, it's a big shock to the system. But you'll manage it, because if you care enough about the sector you're in, you'll make it work.
That goes back to Dick's point, doesn't it? If you're enjoying it, you bounce up in the morning and, like Callum, your head might be exploding with the amount of work you've got to do and your balance, but because you can see the goal and the purpose behind it. And again, I guess if you can't, you need to have a bit of a regroup and go, well, why am I doing this? And make sure you are really focused. The question I've got on chat, Mark, I'm going to put to you. Is it better to do a complicated course that covers lots of subjects when you're 16, or would it be better to just start off with one trade like an electrician or plumbing and then move on?
Wow, that's
a big question. I know. Sorry to throw that one at you.
I think my advice would be, you really need to do something you want to enjoy, because that will take you forward. Although we don't always find it first time. I was very lucky. I found it first time. But had I now, looking back, it was quite complicated. We covered a lot of ground, but it was a full-time residential. So I left home when I was 16 and moved 200 miles away and was full-time residential, where we were doing on-the-job training and lecture work in college. So that was immersive. And then I followed a similar career to Hannah and Callum and did a lot of distance learning. So trying to juggle it. And I think it's all about your learning style, because I'm not a true academic, so I need to do both. But I know other people who are, very gifted academics who can handle very complicated courses and theory. That's just not the way I learn. So I think it is very individual, and we've all got to be mindful of that. So I don't think there's a one size fits all. Obviously, you become an expert if you narrow down in your field, and sometimes you don't want to narrow down in your field too early. I'm not sure I've narrowed down, and I'm 30 years in. So yeah, I don't know. It's a really philosophical question, and I think it all depends on yourself. But starting one small thing will get you into another part of your career. I started one thing and went off and did something else, and did something else, and did something else. So yeah, I just think weigh it up in your own mind, what's right for you, and go for it.
And I also think you've got a really good point. Is you don't know until you try. So actually doing quite a broad foundation course where you get to try lots of different things, you'll suddenly get a bit of a light bulb moment of, I really enjoyed doing that. But if you hadn't ever tried it, you would never know. So I guess at the beginning, you don't know what you don't know. Try lots of things, see what sticks, see what you don't like. Be brave. So if you try something and you don't like it, be brave enough to say, that's not really my thing. What else could I do? As you say, I like working outside, or I hate working outside. I want to go and work for Dick and be in a warehouse building things internally, or I like it today, it's beautiful. Yesterday, not so good. But really listen to yourself, and it's fine to think I might love a thing and then try it and go, oh, this is totally not me. I'm not cut out for this. It's all paperwork and I want to be creative. But you don't know until you try. But again, there's that pressure of, well, if I try it, it must be brilliant. Don't. You're allowed to not like things, and then regroup and ask yourself why, and then move on. As long as you learn from each experience and aren't too hard on yourself, if what you think is going to be totally your thing you're not great at, that's okay. We've all done that. I'm going to come back to Callum. Actually, got a question here about what kinds of things are asked for in an interview? And it's an apprenticeship interview, but I guess with your degree, did you have to have an interview? What was the process like?
For the training scheme I did. That was about 3.5 years ago now. I actually really randomly got asked what type of sandwich I would be in the interview. And I know, complete curveball. I don't know why they asked that.
What sort of sandwich were you? That's the question.
I didn't really know what to say. I think I just said tuna because I like tuna, but I was like, I don't know. I think they'll ask you a serious question about yourself, why you want to be in the industry, what you think you can bring to it. They'll ask you, do you think you'll be able to manage the degree with the working at the same time, and any experience you have. But experience isn't obviously necessary. I came from IT, I had 0 experience in construction, but I showed a willingness to learn, and sort of an excitement for the industry, and I think they saw that and gave me the opportunity, luckily.
A lot of it is down to energy, as you say, because you had started a career, but if you're right at the very beginning of a career, you've got no evidence, you've got no CV outlining all your roles in the industry. It's your energy and your essence, and as you say, you've done your research, and that very simple thing. If you go to interview for a company, making sure you've gone through their website and you know why you want to do what you've applied for, which sounds really basic, but people do turn up to interviews not having done that. So Hannah, same question to you. Did you have to be a sandwich in your interview? How did that go for you?
No, I didn't get a sandwich question. I was quite disappointed. Okay. I'd been warned by some people so I was going to be a BLT classic.
Nice.
But yeah, again, it's all about how you present yourself. At the end of the day, like our company now doing blind CV, so no name, like I think just your name, but no like personal information. So it's literally based on what you've handed in and you. And I think for people starting out in your early careers, you don't have a lot of anything. Again, I didn't have really anything that applied to construction, but it's all about what you want to do. Like do you want to build buildings? Yes. Why? Because I like to drive past them and see them. Like I built that, I was a part of that. It's all about that sort of willingness, ambition and drive to create something. And if you can present that, you'll probably nail it. Because that's how
people want to see what motivates you, and I love that. I want to go, I made that. That's brilliant, but that's what they want to see is the why. And your essence and your passion and how they can work with you, because interviews are a little bit like dating, speed dating. You're meeting this person going, do I actually want to spend 8 hours a day with you? Are you going to feed energy into the business? Are you going to be passionate and driven? And they just want to see that you're going to be great fun to work with and that they can evolve with you and help you on your journey. Next question, Lindsay, I'm going to ask you. There's a question here about in the pandemic, lots of people haven't had a job or they've lost a job. Is construction a good thing to work in, or have people lost their jobs in this sector? Big question for you, Lindsay. Sort of pop that one. But what are your thoughts?
I think personally, talking from East Sussex Highways, we're still hiring people. We've not lost anyone. We've still been working throughout the entire pandemic. And I think as a whole, construction are doing really well. Our parent companies are performing really well. There's definitely a huge need at the minute for project managers, people working within commercial. We're looking for apprentices. We've got apprenticeship positions opening for September. I think it's a really good time to be working in construction.
On that question, Dick, someone asked about what skills are most needed. Are there any roles that you struggle to hire for?
Not really, no. But I think the main thing is that the roles are changing a lot. I mean, we for instance have electricians and plumbers working for us on site and in the factory. And the role of a plumber, I mean, we're challenged these days to design and build houses that use less water. So a plumber isn't just a guy who connects a tap to a mains incoming or something. We're looking at storing rainwater, reusing grey water. So there's an awful lot of sort of technology in something as simple as plumbing. With electrics, obviously there's microgeneration and power storage, and whether we're generating from PV panels and putting it into the hot water tank when we're not using the power, or whether we're putting batteries in buildings, and all this technology is evolving all the time. Equally, we're looking at reducing waste massively. We have a huge sustainability pressure on us as the construction industry is massively wasteful in its pure sense, and there's a massive drive obviously to reduce our waste, and we're pushing our waste down being in a factory, it's a lot easier than on site, but we're pushing our waste down below 5% now, which is a real challenge. And it means we're separating out our waste into 6 different waste streams, and we're investigating where those waste streams are going when they leave the factory. So construction is, I remember construction as bricks and mortar and mud and roofers and scaffolders and all that sort of stuff. Sure, they're all still really, really important, but construction is kind of coming of age. It's becoming a technological process, and there are careers, I think, developing in construction now, which are a long way from where you would think construction was if you just thought of construction. It's we always flippantly say you wouldn't build a car in a field, so why do you build a house in a field? Yeah, that's the stupid thing. But the jobs in construction really are becoming very, very interesting, and I think decarbonisation, waste reduction, and sustainability are going to become more and more and more important in construction. So the potential for work to develop beyond just being an electrician who just does electrician stuff. There's engineering coming through and loads of opportunities to learn.
It's exciting, which leads me quite nicely. So Claire, a question for you. In your opinion, what are the most common perceptions of the construction and built environment sector, and how would you address or challenge them?
I would certainly say that one misconception is that there aren't that many women in construction, and yes, granted, it is a heavily male-dominated industry, but there are more and more women studying STEM subjects and finding careers, certainly within the industry. And we have many women working in our industry. Not all in engineering roles. Some are sort of commercial, some are project managing, but we are finding that our workforce is becoming more diverse and a far more inclusive place to work than perhaps it may have been before. And I think sometimes you have that conception of walking past somewhere and it's quite blokey with all the guys with their hard hats and boots on. But no, I think it's a great arena for females and for women, and we are certainly within East Sussex Highways really campaigning that massively at the moment, and welcome women into our environment massively.
Thank you, Claire. And Mark, coming back to your time within the sector, you say you're celebrating your anniversary of your time in the sector. How have you seen it evolve?
So I did a panel session at the NEC a few years ago with George Clark, and he asked me and put me straight on the spot and said, myth bust it. And I said, well, I started work as a chain boy, which is an incredibly inappropriate term today for lots of reasons. But basically it was the person who used to carry the chain to measure things. And we hadn't moved far away from that. And now you're more likely to have a CAA approved pilot's license to be doing surveying, because we use drone photography and surveys. Very rarely do we go out on the roads anymore. This is how things are done. I run a software business. If you'd have told me 10 years ago I was going to run a software business helping construction, I probably would have laughed. But, we're on the lookout for data analysts. Data analytics is just going to be huge, if it's not already, because we have so much data and we can improve. So, the whole thing changes all of the time. And to Dick's point, if I count all of the meetings I've had in the last 6 months, net zero and carbon is the top of the agenda. Along with diversity and digital. They're the 3 topics that get talked about, not actually construction. It's how are you going to use construction to meet these 3 objectives. So it's changed massively. And
back when you were growing your team, who did you see excel? What we've talked about, sort of the top sort of skills and tips, but when you brought people on board and nurtured them as apprentices or to school leavers, what did you see? Were there some common traits of the people who really excelled?
So I used to do a lot of graduate interviews and help set up a foundation degree 13 years ago, because we'd kind of forgotten that route. And for me, there's a spark. It's something else. What else is in there? They got the academics, which is great, and the thirst for learning. But is there a little spark? Can these individuals work with other individuals? That is ultimately what this is about. And the communication came up. Has someone been captain of the local football team. That's going to be a tick in my box. That's, you know, those sorts of things, because actually there's some leadership skills, there's some curiosity, there's passion to do something. So it's not just about that. And then the big thing I would say is that when I was in corporate life, we would predominantly hire people at the end for whether they fit with our values, and it's the same in the business I'm running now. You know, will people fit in our organisation and live our values that we've set as a team? And I think these are the massive things that we all need to think about. It's not just about the pure technical ability. There's all sorts of things we need to think about, really.
Which is quite an interesting one. To Callum, I'll come to you. So when you were looking at organisations to work for, why did you choose Wilmot Dixon?
Honestly, my girlfriend worked for them already, so I was sort of aware of Wilmot Dixon. I was looking at a few different companies in the industry, so I think maybe I had an unfair advantage with Wilmot. So I've been to the Christmas parties and stuff, and been wooed by a few people in the company. But I looked at other trainee schemes as well from other contractors, and Wilmot seems to be the best one around. You go and you, as part of it, you will work with every single department in the company, for everyone from customer service right through to operations, commercial. So you get a real in-depth look at the whole process and everything we do, and that gives you a great opportunity to pick sort of what your favourite part of it is and go from there.
I actually think, all joking aside, if you're intrigued by an organisation, do ask within your network who might know somebody who works there, because word of mouth is really powerful. You've got tools like Glassdoor, you can see what people think, but quite often people use online tools to moan about where they work rather than doing something constructive. So if you like an organisation, see who you might know, or who your parents or your friends might know who work there, so you can go and say what it's really like, because it's sometimes quite hard to get an idea of a culture externally. Hannah, the same question to you.
Oh, so I did my apprenticeship. That was a different company, but I was kind of like rented out to Wilmot Dixon. So again, I'd already been working along the same lines, but obviously I had to have a backup plan just in case. But again, it's does the company support you? Do you think this is the right company for you? And you won't really know that, which is the awful bit. You just got to take a gut instinct. But like, is this really what you want to do? And if this is really what you want to do, then go for it and sell that this is really what you want to do. And if you're unsure, then construction kind of applies to loads of sectors. Again, project management, finance, God, even IT. There's so many different roles within construction. It's not just building. So just go for any part of the industry that you feel like it suits you. And that's basically what you've got to do. That's what I did.
And as an interviewee, don't be afraid to ask the interviewer why they like working for that organisation and what career development they've received from it. And if they've been there for a long time, ask them why. So don't be afraid to go with, I think it's brilliant when you do an interview and you say, you've got any questions, someone gets a book out and says, right, here's my list of questions. It's brilliant to be grilled as an interviewer, because you know that someone really cares, and that's what we want to see. Claire, in your experience, in your career, well, why have you chosen the companies you've chosen? You mentioned how much you're loving where you are now, but how did you find that remotely, understanding the culture and the dynamic of the organisation?
I found it intriguing. As I say, I was looking for something ultimately local, and my specialist skills are sort of leadership, management, and sort of contact centre based. So I was ultimately looking for something that matched those skills, and wasn't necessarily immediately looking at construction as the industry that I was going to walk into. Having said that, once I've entered into the industry, I mean, even at my age, I mean, I'm 41, and as I say, I've got my skills where I'm at now, but actually walking into this environment and this arena, there are actually so many more opportunities for me in terms of progressing my career into other avenues at this age. And that has been really eye-opening for me, and probably something I didn't realise when I applied for this job in the first place. The reality was it matched my skill set from my previous place, and it was within a 30 to 45-minute drive from me, not knowing we were going to be spending a year and a half at home when I applied. But I think that was really key for me when I was looking and applying.
I think you've touched on a really interesting topic, which is obviously the reason we're here today, is you didn't realise quite what an exciting industry this is. I mean, Dick, you've touched on this, but what do we need to do to just shout out to the world? Obviously, we can do more of these sessions. That's brilliant, and I hope we've encouraged a few people listening in to find out more. But what do we need to do as an industry to really make it clear quite how exciting this is?
I'm not sure. I think maybe make it clear that it's not all mud and bricks. I mean, I think there are people that think of construction in a very one-dimensional way, and perhaps it could be made clearer that there are this huge breadth of opportunities within construction. I was just thinking about interview. We interviewed a guy called Harley a couple of days ago, or a couple of weeks ago. He works here now. He'd done a huge amount of work by looking at our website. He knew a massive amount about what we do and what our principles are. And I mean, he even recognised me, and I was sitting at the far end of the office. There's a picture of me on the website, and addressed me by name. I mean, Harley was always going to work at Boutique Modern. He came in through the door ready for the job, and I do think that we also get people come for interview who are sort of just coming for an interview. Do you know what I mean? I think Hannah's made it very clear. If you decide you want to do it and you have a passion for doing something, just do a little bit of research. You don't have to do a massive amount of research. Just do a little bit of research about the company that you're being interviewed by. And I agree completely. Write some questions. Ask them what sandwich they are. I think an interview is definitely a two-way thing. I mean, don't be too cocky. Obviously, don't be too cocky. But I think a little bit of research goes a heck of a long way. I think that's a good thing. But as far as promoting the construction industry, I think there is a lot going on. I think there's a lot in the news about the construction industry now. There's a lot of positivity about construction, and it's a growing industry. It sounds weird, but it is a growing industry. There's a lot of great success stories. So that's it.
And I think it's really disheartening when you're first starting to apply for jobs and you don't really know what you want to do or where you want to be. If you scattergun, if you apply to everybody and just go to interviews, as you said, Dick, you're more likely to get a no, because you feel like you're busy. You feel like you're busy trying to get a job in inverted commas. But actually, if you go, what do I really want to do? Hone it in, find a company, stalk the company, and go, I want to work for you. That's much more powerful. And even if you haven't got all the skills, the fact that you've taken that time and effort and focus on an organisation means you'll have a much richer interview. Even if you don't get the job, it'll be a much better experience.
You also learn whether you want to work there too. I mean, that's the other thing. You can learn a lot about whether you want to work there. But we have a policy here, which I say flippantly, and I don't mean it flippantly at all. But if someone is successful in the interview, we do a 3-day trial. And if they come to work on time for 3 days, they get the job. It's we think that once they've been interviewed and we know that they have an enthusiasm for what we do here, that the next thing is, can they come to work on time 3 days on the trot? And if they do that, and everyone in the factory, no one says that guy's a loony or a danger or she's whatever, they get to work here. And enthusiasm is so important in whatever you're doing. So if you want to work for Sussex Highways, do a bit of work on what they do and go and get the job. That's the thing. So
never underestimate the power of timekeeping. We all like that as an employer.
Well, absolutely.
But little things, making good tea, that's also a good one. But we can all tell as an employer when someone's got a cover letter and just cut and paste it and change the name. Take time on it, because actually when you write your cover letters and you tailor, we haven't got much of a CV at the beginning of our career, but just kind of putting a bit of richness around it, we can feel as an employer that someone's bothered to do that, and it really is powerful. Lindsay, we've got a question about how do I find out about the apprenticeships with East Sussex Highways?
Good question. If you go to eastsussexhighways.com, right at the bottom of the homepage, there should be a little link for careers. And if you click on that, all of the information for all the different apprenticeships and any other roles that we have are on there.
And a final question as we go to wrap up, I'd like to ask each of you, this is going to be a lovely time travel, sort of going back, what advice you give to your younger self about how to keep moving forward. Mark, I'm going to throw that at you the beginning. So going back, you're dialing into this this session as somebody starting out in their career, what would you say when you leave us now, go and do this?
What do you want to do in 10 years' time? So it was a question I was asked when I was 16. Where do you see yourself in 10 years' time? I didn't even know what the job roles were. And I just blurted something out, and it was agent, and I was a site agent in 10 years' time. So subconsciously, that had set a goal in me, one very simple question. And I somehow I got there. It must have been deep-seated.
Wow. Claire, what are your thoughts?
I would say go with your gut instinct and trust yourself well enough to know where you want to go. And as I say, it's so unnerving at that early age, and just being asked that question, what do you want to do in 10 years' time? It's a very daunting question, but do go with your instinct and follow it. And if something doesn't feel right, it's okay to change your direction. No one sets in stone what it is that you need to be doing. It's your life. Change it. Don't be afraid to do that, I would say.
Keep moving forward.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
And I agree with you, Claire. When you're 16, being asked what you're doing at 26, that was ancient. That was such a long way away when you're 16. Lindsay, what are your thoughts?
I would say, find out what it is that you enjoy doing. You're not going to enjoy your job if you don't enjoy the parts of it. For me, the way I got into what I'm doing is that I really enjoy writing. So that took me down this avenue. And I think you just need to know what it is you enjoy, the things you don't enjoy. If you don't want to be writing reports, stay away from it, because ultimately you're not going to want to be doing it in 10 years' time. And also work out what your strengths are. I think it's really important to know what your strengths are and also your weaknesses. If you know what they are, you can work on them and you can try and improve as well.
Don't be afraid of weaknesses. We are not all able to do everything. My brain does not work in Excel spreadsheets. That's absolutely fine. But just almost embrace your weaknesses, because then you can play to your strengths and then you'll thrive and you'll really enjoy what you're doing, as you rightly said, Lindsay. Dick, what are your thoughts?
I think be kind to yourself. Try and get the balance right between work and leisure. Look after yourself. Don't do anything dangerous or stupid with your spare time that might affect your work, and don't be dangerous at work either that might affect your free time. But what everyone's saying, look for something that you love and enjoy doing, and you can change. I've changed massively over my career. Just look for things that inspire you to get out of bed in the morning and take it very seriously. Take yourself seriously too, and be kind to yourself.
But allow that to evolve, because what absolutely drives you at 20 is quite different at 40. So don't worry about that. I think your 20s is a time of massive personal evolution, and if that changes what you want to do in your career, that's absolutely fine. It doesn't mean you've done anything wrong. It just means you've evolved. Callum, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I just reiterate everyone said already. Really, just don't be afraid to change. If you're somewhere that you don't enjoy anymore, don't be afraid to look elsewhere. And like people said before, just do what you love. Or if you love Excel spreadsheets, go for that. If you don't. It's just, yeah, like you say, 20s is a journey of working out who you are, what you enjoy, and just enjoy it. You'll find your way in the end.
But see it as a journey and enjoy it. As you say, just keep going and keep positive. And Hannah, final thoughts of the session?
Yeah, your whole working life is a huge part of your life, so you have to enjoy what you do, otherwise it's not worth it. Don't be bothered to ask, don't be scared to ask questions, and doors will open. If you know about them or not, there'll always be another stepping stone that you can take. So it's not a be all and end all if you don't enjoy something. It's not a be all and end all if you just want to change. It's okay to change. Change is good. Change is how we grow, and that's what we will need to remember.
Stay curious. Keep learning. I think that's been a major theme of all of this, is you don't know everything right now. None of us know everything right now. We never do. Keep learning, keep challenging yourself, and get uncomfortable occasionally and try some stuff that maybe you're not sure you're going to like, because you just might. it's one of those things. And if you thank you for attending today. As you see in the chat, there is a post-event survey. It'd be lovely if you could fill this in, because we're putting this on hoping we've hit all the right buttons. If anything we've missed, anything you'd like to hear more about, please pop it in there. The same time tomorrow, we've got careers in health and social care. So it's a week with loads of food for thought. And I mean, I hope we've whetted everyone's appetite with construction. I hope we've dispelled a few myths, shaken up a few preconceptions, and you're all going to go off and find out more. But thank you all so much for your time today. Thank you to the panel for being so honest and so helpful. And thank you very much.